It is Wednesday. It's 2 p.m. and you're listening to the Blake and Jake Show. I am Blake Wallis, your host, joined by my co-host and great friend, Jake Aron.
Hello.
You can find the Blake and Jake Show on Spotify and YouTube at the Blake and Jake Show, or on Instagram at the Blake and Jake Show, no spaces. We're going to go ahead and get right into it today. And starting off with some exciting news, a report from CNN this morning states Reggie Bush's 2005 Heisman Trophy is being returned to him. The trophy was taken away in 2010. It has been a long time coming for Reggie Bush and USC fans. Having a trophy taken away for something most top-flight athletes have done. NIL has rendered previous judgments, such as Reggie Bush's, obsolete. Simply put, it was about time. So for those who were not fully aware of the Reggie Bush issue, received money for playing college football, something that has been a mainstay of college football. It was hush-hush, but everybody knew it was there for all of these athletes that just deserve to get paid in college. Now, the NCAA has been forced to pay these guys, and things are all set right. And this is just one more thing that they're getting right now, but it's taken a long time. It's actually taken almost 15 years to go ahead and rectify that situation. So congratulations to Reggie Bush getting back his 2005 well-earned Heisman Trophy. It's insane to take away a Heisman Trophy if he wasn't taking steroids or something, cheating. That was probably the biggest surprise to me. And guess what? This was a huge week for sports, all kinds of sports, but really the NBA, the playoffs kicked off, and home teams won out. It was insane. 12-2 on the weekend. In fact, only the final two games of last night, when the Pacers beat the Bucks and the Mavericks beat the Clippers, were the only two times since the playoff has started that a home team has lost a game. Up until that point, they were 12-0. They end 12-2. Go ahead.
Yeah, they say it's not really a game. It's not really a series until the away team wins. And now that the away team has won, these NBA playoffs are really getting going. It's exciting.
Yeah, for those two teams. For every other team, it's still on the line. That's what we're going to talk about for a part of our day-to-day. Is just a lot of these teams are 0-2 and still have everything left in this series, right? It doesn't really begin until somebody wins a road game. So congratulations to the Mavericks and to the Pacers being able to break that little two-game homestand that has proven valuable for all of those other teams. We're going to specifically talk about one team, captured headlines. And you're saying, which team? That was the 76ers and the Knicks. No, we're talking the Lakers and the Nuggets. So the Lakers blow a 20-point lead in Denver in Game 2, and the sky's falling. The Nuggets are now 10-0 against the Lakers. Anthony Davis storms out of the post-game press conference. LeBron attacks the replay booth. Shenanigans. And the consensus today is the Lakers are sunk. D'Angelo Russell goes unconscious from three. Look at LeBron and AD's numbers. That was their best game. I push back on that last narrative. That was the best half of basketball the Lakers have played against the Nuggets. They went up 20 points in it was the first half and a few minutes of the third quarter. So incorporating that was the best half of basketball the Lakers had played in this series. The Lakers with 10 minutes in the third quarter are up 20 and for the first time found a weakness to attack. That had been the difference in this matchup up until this point. The Nuggets could manufacture points running plays anytime they pleased against the Lakers. Think about it. The Jokic down screen for Murray for three. The Jokic smoke screen to find the cutting Aaron Gordon for easy dunks. We've seen this take time. This place, time and time again, it feels like the Lakers have no answers for these manufactured plays. But for the first time in the third quarter, the Lakers fought fire with fire. Many pundits in sports have told you this much and have crushed the Lakers for not going back to the pick and roll play that worked so well. But the Denver Nuggets had actually figured out how to play better defense on that pick and roll. They shut it down multiple occasions later in the game. The Nuggets didn't allow the Lakers to attack the edges of Jokic as they did early in the pick and roll. The success the Lakers found came from the distance AD was able to create after he screened. Part of the remedy for the Nuggets came from Aaron Gordon's defense in the fourth quarter of AD, essentially locking him down. There wasn't that kind of space that AD was able to create off a screen. Aaron Gordon was tight to him, and those holes just were not open for LeBron James to take advantage of, even with his fantastic passing. In fact, a few turnovers came out of that in the fourth quarter, trying to get the ball to AD while he was pushing to the post. The Lakers do have a serious flaw, and it's not coaching. It's not the referees, and it's not the replay booths. The Lakers are led by LeBron James, a near 40-year-old man, and not AD. I and all of you should understand if LeBron James may stand around and take plays off. He's near 40 years old, but his team should not. I don't just see LeBron James not diving around for loose balls and fighting for rebounds. It's the attitude of the entire team, and I'm going to take AD out of this. Other team, not AD. Christian Brown scored 10 points. 6 of those were purely hustle points. Those who watched the games, you saw it. 3 purple and yellow jerseys, and Braun comes up with the uncontested rebound and put back. Those 6 points by Christian Braun alone tied the entire Lakers bench in scoring. All of those were just hustle plays. This brings me to my next point. Spencer Dinwiddie was picked up off of the waiver wire on the vet minimum of $1.5 million. He's been given 23 minutes through 2 games and has 1 assist and 2 rebounds to show for it. If Taurean Prince is ever on the bench while Dinwiddie plays, the Lakers coaching staff are making mistakes. Dinwiddie is neither a great defender nor threatens the Nuggets with his offense. My belief on this is that Spencer Dinwiddie was never supposed to get these minutes. Had Gabe Vincent had been ready to play extended minutes in this series, the Lakers went out and got Gabe Vincent specifically for Jamal Murray this season, needing a guard that could defend Murray at a high level. Lakers fans, does that sound like anyone? Those who watch the games, has that sounded like anybody? Because it reminds me a little bit of KCP. They had him just a few years ago, refused to pay, and is now producing high-level minutes for the defending champs. Coincidence? I think not. The Lakers will win Game 3 tomorrow night. Role players will play better at home. That's just how it goes in the playoffs. LeBron James and Anthony Davis will get extended rest. They're not playing tonight. They're not playing, a one-day break, one-day game. They're getting 2 nights of rest. This series has all the potential to at least go 6 games deep. Don't sell out on the Lakers just yet. What are your thoughts on that, Jake?
Well, I got a question for you. So if, let's say, the Lakers don't win tomorrow night, what are their chances for the rest of the series? They go down 0-3. Is the series over?
Oh, yeah, I think, we already know that statistically, once you go down 0-3, that's a death sentence. So, but I don't think we need to talk about this. Lakers going to win tomorrow night. You're talking AD getting back, LeBron James with more rest, the pressure of being down 0-2. You got to think, too, what is not factored in here by a majority of people discussing this game? The Nuggets have probably one of the hardest places to play in the NBA. The elevation is high, and LeBron James, this team is susceptible to that sort of thing, to tiring down in the late minutes because they're older, more injury prone. This is just something that is going to be a factor for LeBron James and the rest of these players. But now they're back in their home court. The pressure's on them, yet this is a pressure that you really need to be feeling, and they need to be feeling they're going to win Game 3. Game 4 is more in the question, honestly. And why am I saying this? Why am I so sure that the Lakers are going to win Game 3? The Lakers are the sports car. They're the sports car of the NBA. At their best, nothing is better. I already said that. 20-point lead, 10 minutes left in the third quarter. That's what the Lakers have done on the defending champions of the NBA. They're like a sports car. Nothing's better at their best, but they aren't a daily driver. If you make a sports car, think about a Lamborghini. Drive it around on a sports car. Make a sports car. You're making it a daily driver. You're gonna have pitfalls. The Nuggets are more like a Lexus or a BMW. They're dependable. They're comfortable. Maybe they can't top out like the Lakers can, but their vehicle could glide through the hills of Columbia, to the small towns of Harrisburg, Fayette, all of Boonville, name the different names, Moberly. They could go through all of these streets and then go right through the streets of Atlanta, right through the streets of St. Louis without any problem. That's what the Nuggets are. They churn at any pace. Their lows are never as low as the Lakers. And while their highs may never be as high, they find a spot, they get to their highest point of production and stay there longer. That's just what makes the Nuggets such a tough team for this Lakers team, because a lot of these teams, they couldn't handle the Lakers at their best. Well, the Nuggets, no. You could see it. The Nuggets were down 20 points in less than a half. They had every reason to say, this is the game. It must have been the Lakers' night. I mean, D'Angelo Russell shoots the lights out of the ball in the first half. Every reason to pack it in. And at no point did it even seem like the Nuggets were worried that Jokic was, frustrated trying to get points. It just felt like, they knew that it was going to get close. And when it got close, though, they were ready to take it.
Yeah, one thing, though, I kind of want to push back. You don't think that the Nuggets' highs? Well, why don't you think that the Nuggets' highs are as high as the Lakers, considering that they're?
I don't think there is another team in the NBA that at their peak is as dominant as the Lakers can be. That's just what we've seen. When you have LeBron and you think of D'Lo and you think of AD, who AD is a top 5 player in the NBA. There's no when he's healthy anymore. He's a top 5 player. LeBron James is fantastic. They've got a great core. And when Spencer Dinwiddie's not getting the minutes, and if Gabe Vincent was healthy here, this would be a very different series, because Gabe Vincent would be getting a majority of these minutes on Jamal Murray. And I think we would just see that would be the maximum that the Lakers could get. The Lakers at their best are really hard for a lot of teams to even compete with. They've got too much size and too much of a lot of different things to work with. And LeBron James, who is still, right now leading, I believe, the playoffs in assists, or at least tied for it. So, I just think they've got too much. This is just the one team. Think about it. What other team would be giving the Lakers this many problems in the Western Conference in the first round?
I don't know about this many problems, but I mean, you think about the Timberwolves, even
you're getting ahead in our segments, buddy.
All right, my bad. even okay, well, then I'll do another team. Even the Suns. I feel like the Suns would give him some trouble.
You know what? I'll go ahead and engage you on that one. The Suns, and I've been wanting to talk about the Suns for a little bit. What do the Suns do better than the Lakers? Well, individual shot creation. You're welcome there. I will now tell you everything that the Lakers do better than the Suns. They pass better. They defend better. They've got taller defensive players. They've got better three-point shooters outside of their top 3 guys. Every single thing other than individual shot creation. What do the Suns have? Grayson Allen's injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grayson Allen's injured. So now, what more do they have? Okay. In all seriousness, I don't. That's more of me just not being a fan of the Suns, but I'm glad you gave me an opportunity to say something. All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the teams that impressed us the most this week, because like I said, you're cutting a little bit first, but there is a team that has impressed you as equally as it impressed me, as it should have impressed everybody watching, the Timberwolves. Look, just a few years ago, they were the laughingstock of the NBA. You have Cat Williams that could possibly play the 5 and be a stretch floor shooter. You have Anthony Edwards, who is this. I'm trying to think of exactly how he was thought of a few years ago. He was promising, but so young. He's only 22 now. A few years ago, just getting him in the building, they knew they had something, but did they know they had this? I don't think so. Or at least everybody else did not. And they're the laughingstock. You get Rudy Gobert, who is often blamed for the whole coronavirus shutdown, even though it would have happened eventually. He just happened to be the figurehead of problems right then. And is just really known as like a limited defensive guy. Yet here he makes so much sense. And now it makes so much sense. It makes all the sense in the world. Without Cat in the lineup, one of the best defensive teams there are, really from top to bottom. And putting a 4 that is really more of a 3-and-D support guy has made Anthony Edwards and his role expand. And there's certain people in the NBA that could take any role there is. And I think we all know now Edwards is one of those guys, right?
Yep.
There's nobody with more fire in the NBA right now. I don't feel the passion from any player more than I felt from Anthony Edwards this weekend. I'm willing to go on record saying that. Jake, what say you?
Yeah, I agree with that. Anthony Edwards is so much fun to watch. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really watch a Timberwolves game during the season, but I watched their game one against the Suns, and man, that was just so exciting. Not only with his scoring, his talking to KD, but his ability to get his teammates involved. I don't think you talk much about that. His passing, just like you said, his passion, just everything he did. It wasn't a perfect game. But it was darn near pretty close. He played just such good game.
Yeah, and a figurehead moment for me is Anthony Edwards talking mad talking to Kevin Durant, who was at one time considered possibly the best player in the NBA. Now, whether he ever actually was is still up for debate, may never actually be defined for sure.
But either way, though, I remember Anthony Edwards saying that was his favorite player growing up. So.
Yeah. No, there was no nicety there. And when the ball was bouncing, he was not his friend, and that's exactly what you want to see from a young guy. What could you not like from Anthony Edwards? There's really nothing that Anthony Edwards has done this weekend that would make me say, well, I wish there was something better. He plays with absolute effort. You can't ask for anything more. Really kind of came onto my scene when he was the lone bright spot of the World Cup. And this year the World Cup will look much different. But Anthony Edwards still has a spot on that team for what he did last year. Yeah, and I think lastly, this is just a terrible matchup for the Suns. This is where I get to bang on the Suns just a little bit more. Yeah, come on. Once again, we played it with the Lakers. The Suns are better at individual shot making. But who's the team that takes care of the ball better? It's the Timberwolves. More blocks? The Timberwolves. More steals? That's the Timberwolves. In fact, Anthony Edwards is going to be a steal leader here pretty soon if he's not already in the playoffs. I mean, driving to the basket. That's the T-Wolves. That's still the T-Wolves. We're still talking T-Wolves. We haven't even gotten to anything else the Suns do well because I don't know. I don't know. So go ahead. I think that's all I have for our number one team. Jake has the number two team. He's champion here. I am interested to hear it.
Yes, so this might surprise some people because they lost. But before the playoffs began, if you were to tell me that my life depended on picking the winner of one series, I would have most confidently said that the Oklahoma City Thunder would win. Yet the first game against the Pelicans came down to the last shot. I don't know if it was a lack of playoff experience for the Thunder, the veteran leadership of the Pelicans, but the Pelicans really, really impressed me that first game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he went off. He did what he does. The Thunder went on a run that put him up 9 in the third quarter. The Thunder didn't even shoot that well, but the Pelicans executed. They kept it close throughout the game, which is honestly more than I could have asked, or even more than I could have expected from the Pelicans, who they also played pretty good defense against one of the best teams in the West. Now, I'm not saying that they have a good chance. There's a chance that they get swept this series, but game one was exciting to watch, and it was very impressive, in my opinion, by the Pelicans.
It was a good point. I was surprised that game was that close. I do expect that to be a tough series. In my opinion, they won the lottery of the Western Conference. If you're really any kind of team that's worried about getting going offensively, you don't want to run into the Timberwolves. You definitely don't want to do that. And there's no way anybody wanted to play the defending champs because more or less they look all put together the same form as last year, which was a NBA championship winning form. And the Lakers are finding that out right now. The matchup you wanted was OKC. OKC is still young. They're not overly big, defensively, excellent. They're not horribly defensively, but they don't have anybody that truly scares you. Chet Holmgren will get some blocks, but he's not going to shove one back down your throat. It's not a dominating big situation. And the Pelicans have done exactly what they needed to do. They are the bigger team. They've played as a bigger team. The Pelicans are relying on older players. McCollum has been around this league for a long time. He's making the right moves even when he's not shooting well. Brandon Ingram is now an older player in the NBA. I get it. He was once young with the Lakers, underperforming. But this guy is now a veteran of the NBA. They're playing great. He's coming back off of injury. He's only going to get better. With Zion out, it's one of those almost, it's not addiction by subtraction. Zion makes the Pelicans extremely hard to beat. But with Zion out, it does fill a bigger role for Brandon Ingram that I think he fits better into. So now I don't expect to see so much of a sit back. I think the Pelicans are real dangerous in this round one. I don't see them getting swept. And I don't want to underestimate OKC. I said that, the Pelicans won the lottery. It's not an easy matchup. But of the three, this would be the matchup to win. This is the matchup that I would bet could be won by the lower seed. And the Pelicans did not show me anything differently in game one. My third team, interesting here. I don't know if I would have put them underneath the Pelicans had I known you're number two, but it would have been close. The Knicks haven't played their best basketball. Their best players haven't played their best basketball, but they still found ways to outdo the 76ers. They've gotten a little bit lucky. Injured Embiid is about a 70%, would you say? About a 70% Embiid?
Yeah.
Clearly can shoot the ball still. Nobody's really going to contest his shots too much. Hartenstein had a moment, but he's not giving you anything else. Obviously, the rebounds isn't there. The defense isn't there. He just can't give that to you. There's been some questions about how much he's medicating in the playoffs. I'm not a doctor. Not going to subscribe to any of that without any more knowledge. But I do worry about Embiid because he's not fully there. It's so clear. The Knicks, on the other hand, are playing without Julius Randle. He's not even on the floor. And they've been so defensively strong, so tough, that you could have told me he was, and I would believe you. That's how tough this team has been all throughout 1 through 5. Have kind of found the right guys for the coaching system, and right now they're just playing their game. Is it enough to win this round? Is it enough to keep going? Jake, I would be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it could be enough to win this round, especially if Embiid just looks so much. He's very out of gas. Just throughout the whole game, even at the start of the game, of game 2 at least, it seemed like he was worn down. So is it enough to, get them really far in this playoffs? I don't know. But is it enough at least to beat this 76ers team? I see it. I see that as a pretty good possibility.
Yeah, the Bucks are without Embiid. The 76ers are struggling right now with a compromise. I'm sorry.
The Bucks are without Giannis.
Bucks are without Giannis. Yeah, I was going to say the 76ers are with a compromise Embiid. And right now, it's just like it's the Celtics and who else, right?
Yeah.
And I think that team has every right to be the Knicks. It's important to remember that with Joel Embiid, this is not the 7th-ranked team in the East. If Joel Embiid was playing the regular season, this team would be much higher in the seedings, which means the Knicks wouldn't have had to play them. But now it means a series win for the Knicks would be much bigger than the Pacers beating the 3rd-ranked Bucks or any other matchup in this series. Really, the Knicks are the ones in the key spots to make the noise, to become that dark horse in the East to possibly upset who's been running the East the entire year, the Celtics, and then possibly get to the NBA Finals. And we all know in the NBA Finals, the West will be favored there. So the Knicks are going to have to look up and punch up the entire way, but aren't they built kind of to be doing that anyway?
Yeah, they're okay. I just want to talk real quick. This is a little bit unrelated to what you just said, but you mentioned the word tough earlier, and that's really how I would describe this New York Knicks team, and that's how you would expect a Tom Thibodeau led team to play. They were down 5 with 30 seconds left in this last game. Obviously, they ended up winning. It's the 4th time since the 1976-1977 77 season that a team has done this. But it was just really impressive how they were able to stay in it, and how they were able to stay tough and stay in the game and end up getting the victory.
I gotta say, and more individually, Hartenstein had Embiid shoot just a beautiful mid-range shot over him with like 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter and kind of just stood there. And I was like, I think that's the point. I think that's the point where Embiid has shown he's clearly a better player than Hartenstein. And there might be some more clarity in that matchup going forward. But Hartenstein is just like every other Knick. They're not going to give up. They're fighting till the end. It was never the pretty stuff that Hartenstein did better than Embiid. It was all the dirty stuff. And that's once again, right up the Knicks' alley. I think the Knicks have been playing that spot extremely well. They're in a great spot with a win against the 76ers, and they'll get some of that credibility, some of that confidence looking forward, because the Celtics might just be in the mirror for them. That might be right up the road. All right, we are going to take a quick break. Thank you so much for listening to the Blake and Jake Show on KCOU 88.1 FM. Yeah, you know what time it is. We've talked NBA playoffs. Now we're talking the NFL draft. And, we came up with a certain theme for this draft that is a little bit interesting here. There's been a lot of draft positions that have been focused on, whether you're talking about the Chargers at 5 and what did they do? Did they trade back? And the 8th pick of the draft with the Atlanta Falcons and just got Kirk Cousins. And what are they going to add with Kirk Cousins? Well, today we look at some under-talked about draft positions here. We're going to start, and maybe it's for one reason or another. There's no specific reason on why we're talking one specific team. Maybe we feel like it's a big thing for the draft, or maybe for this team specifically, or what positions could go here, what's changed about this team. But I think without further ado, we can go ahead and give it in and give some live examples here. Let's start with the number 7 pick here. The number 7 pick goes to the Tennessee Titans. Now, many expect the Atlanta Falcons to get the best defensive players on the board. In fact, I've heard only one person say, go get a wide receiver at number 8, and that was waiting to come into the station here. A fellow coworker mentioned that. Other than that, though, it seems pretty real that they're going to be getting a defensive player and be expecting the best defensive player on the board. And for the most part, that makes a lot of sense here. I expect 4 quarterbacks to go in the first 8 picks, and you leave about 3 other players. That's 1 Marvin Harrison, 2 Malik Neighbors. I believe both of those are locks to be gone by the time that the Titans or the Falcons are up to pick. But then you go to the number 7 spot. What a lot of different draft experts have is Joe Alt slotted into this position. And that would just lead the way for Atlanta to go ahead and say, hey, we'll take the number 1 defensive player in this draft. Thank you very much. And we'll take all the hype. That's really what kind of the Texans did last year. If you think Kirk Cousins and switch it out for C.J. Stroud being drafted, and go get the best defensive player in the draft, and you're on your way. Now, Bill Callahan is the son of the head coach and also possibly one of the best O-line coaches there are in the game right now. He's been around for a long, long time. It makes sense to go ahead and get him Joe Alt here. But what are some other positions, Jake, that you are interested in the Titans looking at? Even if they don't pick them, what are some thoughts for you on where the Titans go?
Well, excuse me, I had them potentially picking Joe Alt also, but another person that you mentioned, you said he might be taken, Malik Neighbors. And one of the reasons why I say that is because Callahan has been quoted as saying that he tends to he tends to lean to the guys in the draft that can score touchdowns. That's Malik Neighbors. So that's the other guy that I had chosen to potentially be chosen by the Titans. I
got you there. Here's the thing. 7 is a little high for some positions on defense. That's what right now. There's no linebackers that are going to be drafted at 7. If you're looking at defensive end, there is a plethora of different defensive ends right now that really could settle in. We're talking Dallas Turner, who many expect to go right after him if they do not select him. There is a lot of push here for Byron Murphy. Many expect him to actually have been the best defensive player in this draft. And all of these are positions of need, in my opinion, to the Falcons. Another position of need, though, is cornerback right now. And there is a very interesting battle. It's become a 2-man race here. Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell. And Mitchell has tested out perfectly. In fact, has kind of put Terrion Arnold in the rearview mirror. Yet Terrion Arnold gets to kind of boast and talk about the season and look at all of these top flight receivers he got to cover in the SEC and did a fantastic job of doing. Quinyon Mitchell, Toledo, will not get to say the exact same things, Jake. Kind of talk to me. Say we're picking one defensive player here, and it's the Tennessee Titans. A little bit of a shock. What player are we picking here with the 7th pick in the NFL draft?
With the 7th pick, a defender? You have to give me a minute.
You think Byron Murphy?
I think Murphy could be a good choice.
Yeah, I would have to say Byron Murphy, get the defensive line right. And I know Joe Alt to your dad just makes sense. So it's like Father's Day gift. Father's Day is in June,
Yes.
but it's a little bit earlier, and I'll have time to get some time to mess around with his gift as well, because Byron Murphy's a player that's going to be around not just this year. Or I'm sorry, Joe Alt's going to be a player that is not just this year, possibly 10, 15 years of being an offensive tackle. But Byron Murphy is really good here. And if you want to take the best defensive player on the board, that is still an option for the Tennessee Titans. Moving on, and just a little bit down the line, and not very far either, we get to the number 10 pick. The New York Jets, the first wild card quarterback team, maybe. And I know it's a little bit of strange. What is that? It's one of the teams that, could take a quarterback. It would make sense for them to take a quarterback, yet is it worth the risk? Is the risk worth the reward? Because right now, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, old, injured in like the first play of the game last year. No promises that a full season is ahead of him, and retirement right around the corner. Zach Wilson was never a real backup. Now he is in the Denver Broncos facility and will get another shot, something sorely needed. But the Zach Wilson thing has soured so bad. The fact that the Jets have put in this thing that, hey, he's going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. He's going to learn all these great things, and then he's going to take over for us. And that lasted one play, and then it's suddenly like, oh, he's our guy, and it's not good. And it's just not a good, healthy place for him to be. I'm not saying that he's going to be some star with the Broncos, but it's a new home. It's a fresh start. I imagine the best Zach Wilson is in front of him. But here we are, the Jets, number 10 pick. Think about the situations here. I want to pitch a few different situations, and I want you to tell me what you would do with this pick had I told you this situation worked out. The first situation, Aaron Rodgers plays 6 games, gets injured, lower leg injury, decides, hey, likely not coming back for this year. Regardless, the Jets probably don't tie themselves to Aaron Rodgers for another year since he hasn't played a full year in 2 years with them. So now you're in the bottom of the draft, right? You're probably a 3-4 win team, and next year's not really supposed to be a great quarterback draft. Would you rather get a quarterback this year, whether it be Penix or Bo Nix, who almost assuredly be there at that spot? Or would you rather wait next year, draft possibly the number 1 possibly, but you're taking a risk trying to think you're going to get the number 1 pick, and maybe number 1, number 2, or number 3 quarterback and having him start immediately?
No, I would go with getting Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. For this draft. You could make the argument that getting a QB for just this is going for what the situation is now with Aaron Rodgers healthy, not your scenario, but that getting a quarterback and having them go behind Aaron Rodgers for a season could be wasting a season for them if they're not totally being mentored by him. But if Rodgers gets hurt, like you said, you need to have a backup plan. You need to have somebody who's ready behind Aaron Rodgers, because if not, and let's say they don't get that number 1 pick and they don't have a quarterback already lined up, what happens then?
I'm just going to push back on one thing that you said there. Getting Bo Nix, getting Michael Penix Jr., and having him in an NFL system where the only thing that they're doing is football. Understand that these kids have been going to classes. These kids have been doing a bunch of absurd other things that college kids do and everything. Now you're a professional, and your job is football. That is a big move in itself. Just getting to work around NFL guys all day. Those two things. Bo Nix, I see, is the one that could really use a year behind center. I think Michael Penix Jr. is more of like it might be hard to get him ready for this year. Maybe don't expect much, but I don't think that Michael Penix Jr. couldn't play in the NFL this year. Now, we talked about Aaron Rodgers getting injured. It's something we don't want to see. But let's just say, good case scenario now. We're talking best case scenario. I don't know about best case. Aaron Rodgers makes it to the playoffs. They get bounced in the playoffs. They had a good run and decides, hey, that was my last year. I made it through the season healthy, but, every player's got a toe. They've got an ankle. They've got a finger. And he says, that's the last of it for me. I'm hanging up. So now you're a really good team. You're going to draft 22nd, 24th. What did the Jets do? Did they pick have to pick the top? What? They don't get to go pick a quarterback in that first round. You wouldn't want to select your quarterback of the future and the 22nd pick of the NFL draft, I don't think. That is not a normal spot for these quarterbacks to go. So I'm asking you again, in this situation, would you rather draft Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. now, or wait and see what falls to you next year?
No, I'm sticking with drafting him now. I'm going with, playing it. I guess, I don't know if safe is the right word, but having a plan, having one that is better than just, flying by the seat of your pants. I think that's the way to go.
Now, Aaron Rodgers might want you to fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't be very happy if I don't know. I don't think he would be very happy with them drafting another quarterback as opposed to like a wide receiver, somebody who he could play with.
Great point. And there's Brian Thompson Jr. likely going to be on the board. Is that a little bit over drafting? Not to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wants a piece right now. So I do agree. I think that's a great point about what Aaron Rodgers wants, and will he be okay, and will he get in line the Jets right now have catered to his every need. So it's hard to imagine that. But really, the Jets need to be thinking about, is it maybe making your pick at 10 and then moving up? Is it moving back off of 10 and getting an extra pick in the second round? There's so many options here for the Jets, but they've got to consider them, because you're going to need, like you said, flying by the seat of your pants after this year with Aaron Rodgers as your starting quarterback is not exactly a fantastic idea heading into the season. We're going to skip a few spots, and you're saying, what? Skipping a few spots? But there's the Broncos. Well, the Broncos have been a little bit more covered, and I think really the 10th to the 12th slot is going to be a lot of offensive tackles. It's going to be a lot of good, solid moves. But then we get to the number 20, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. And there are a lot of potential directions for the Steelers to go. They need a lot of players. There's going to be a lot of players on the board that are still usable players. I think drafting a cornerback, in fact, if Nate Wiggins falls to them, I don't see how they pass up Nate Wiggins. But there's so many options here. I think that's the big thing. They've got the cornerbacks. You've got the offensive linemen. Amarius Mims is a name that I've heard. There's defensive ends. At this point, Latu could be there. And Latu is one of the interests of the draft. I've heard as high as the best defensive player in the draft to possibly not in the first round. So can I say he won't be there at this position? Can I say he's not a great pick? Do they already have great defensive pressure? Yes. Getting Latu at 20th pick could be the steals that the Steelers want. But I think offensive line might just be one of the other positions that the Steelers go to. What are your thoughts on the Steelers and where they should be drafting?
Yeah, well, you mentioned his name. I think if he's available, you definitely go with Nate Wiggins. He's a little light at 173 pounds, but he's tall. He's also really fast. Now, there are a little bit of concerns that his tackling is kind of just hit or miss, but he's 20 years old, getting a 20-year-old who can run a 4.28, it can be a high risk with what you're getting, but it could also be a very, very high reward for the Steelers.
Yeah, big reward, and I know people are going to be like, the Steelers are all big. They like their guys big. They take their small, talented corners, and this is a smaller but a very talented, very quick corner as well. I'm glad you pointed that out. That's something that Nate Wiggins offers here, is a ton of speed, a ton of recovery speed. And I like that pick so much for the Steelers. The question is he there? So real quickly, going to go to a little scenario here. There are 3-4 corners that I expect, if you count Cooper DeJean as a corner, that I expect to be gone by this 20th pick. Now, let's just say Nate Wiggins is gone. And on the board, you have Kool-Aid McKinstry, Ennis Rakestraw Jr., and Kamari Lassiter on that corners list. And TJ Tampa. I like TJ Tampa. I'm going to add him to that list. Now, with that list, are you still going corner, or are you going offensive line at that point?
I would still, honestly, I'd go with corner.
Really?
I would stick with that position. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's it could be a position of need for them, and there are a lot of pretty solid corners in this draft.
It is a real position of need. When I look at it, though, Graham Barton and Jackson Powers Johnson feels like a better value pick at that point, and both can play right guard, left guard, and then move later on. I like both of these players. I got to think. I like TJ Tampa and Kamari Lassiter. I think those two corners have an ability to be in like a tier 2 that many people didn't see, but these teams have them slotted as like tier 2 corners under Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold, and could go. I've heard Kool-Aid McKinstry is going. Obviously, if you're in the SEC for 4 years and you've played well every year, that probably means you're about ready for the next level. So I think there's that as well. I think you make a good point. I think it'd be Kool-Aid McKinstry, now that you're saying that. And I think that might be just as good of a pick as those two O-linemen. All right, that moves us 4 picks down to Dallas. Now, Dallas is an interesting team because they're all in, baby. You hear it, all in. All in. And you're a Dallas guy, so I can make fun of this a little bit more. All in. Yet they haven't made a lot of moves. Very lack of moves. In fact, just re-signing players. Something that they're going to have to just get used to at this point because Dak is about ready for a contract extension. Man, what it is to be in that Cowboys front office right now. My thought here is I think that there are going to be some offensive tackles that are rated in the first round that should be going. One should be going to the Cowboys. Tyler Guyton is what I have on my mind. Fantastic offensive tackle, and Jerry loves his Oklahoma football, and it just makes a lot of sense to me. But Tyler Guyton might not be there. That is a reality that Dallas might have to face. And also the reality is Dallas has a lot of pressure on them right now. They have a big fan base. They want something spectacular every year. Who's that spectacular player at 24 that Dallas could get? And fans would say, okay, our offseason has been good. Well, is there one?
I'm not totally sure if there's one, but I would kind of to go off of your point. I think they go with Tyler Guyton, but if he's not available, you have to go with the really, really big, really, really splashy pick. I don't think there's really any other big option for them there. They've got to do something because they haven't, you said they're all in. They're all in on re-signing players.
Brian Thomas Jr., is that exciting enough? Xavier Worthy, is that exciting enough for you?
I think so.
Xavier Worthy, fast. You think about speed. Do you get that and you say, hell yeah, with Prescott and a little bit of a problem in the run game? They're going to probably draft a running back, I'm guessing 3rd, 4th round. And I imagine he's from Texas as well. But I do see this as being kind of an Xavier Worthy interest spot. But Brian Thomas Jr. takes the bait. Everything he was able to do in his rookie season at LSU. I understand that whole offense was prolific, but man, that would be a very sexy pick at that 24 spot if Brian Thomas Jr. is still on the board. All right, this brings us to our very last team here. And you're saying, what? There's still a team that could control some kind of draft future? Yes, there is. And it's 29, Detroit. Big year for Detroit last year. Earth-shattering. They actually are going to the playoffs, and they're winning playoff games. They really were almost beat the 49ers. That's what we need to get to. They were so close. I think second-year success is really hard. They found success off of a lot of rookie and young play. They're going to add something defensively, I think, to this team. They need some corners. We've already talked about some corners. I love TJ Tampa. Again, one more time. TJ's Tampa fan. I'm him. But, I mean, there's so many good ones. Kamari Lassiter's been playing with Georgia, the best team. He's seen all the hardest covers. You think about that with Kool-Aid, and if Kool-Aid's still there, which I think will probably not be the case. At the end of the day, I still have our Mizzou product heading over to Detroit. I just think it makes a lot of sense. Jakes, what are your thoughts on that matchup right there?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Darius Robinson. He's from Detroit. He's bigger than most guys. He's 285 pounds, 6'5", plus he's fast. Now, I think the question with them is how much are you willing to work with him? Because he seems like he's bigger and faster than most guys at his position, but the team that's gonna draft him, which could be Detroit, is really gonna have to work on refining his skills.
I agree with that 100%. I think everything you said was perfect right there. He's big. He's about 30, 40 pounds on these other guys. He's also got about 2 or 3 inches. He's a guy that you can see putting him inside, rushing the passer from inside the offensive line. You could put him on the outside. He could cover space and go from side to side. This is he's tantalizing is what he is for any defensive coordinator, any defensive line coach, because you could teach him, what you think you could teach him, what defensive line coaches think they can teach him, added with what he physically brings to the table, is almost too much to pass up. And this is the perfect slot for one of those guys that are just like, if he works, it will be a slam dunk pick. why not take a risk at the 29th pick with Detroit? You get a guy that matches your other young rookie from Michigan, and suddenly you're on a roll. You're winning. Aiden Hutchinson and Darius Robinson, kind of a duo there, and they need a duo. And I think that's where you get your extra pass rush, and I think that's where the Lions can see themselves beating the 49ers in their head when they play that game again. You know, you always go back and you say, what did I need to win that game? Well, Darius Robinson on your team, you might have won versus the 49ers. All right. I think that does it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. I invite listeners to follow our show's Instagram, The Blake and Jake Show. No space to keep up with the boys and follow the show closer. Your support means the world to us. If you caught part of the show, but not the whole show, or maybe you want to hear the whole show over again, check us out on Spotify and YouTube at The Blake and Jake Show. It has been an absolute pleasure, and we hope to see you next week for another episode. Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on KCOU 88.1 FM. Thank you for listening.